Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining in today for another AMA here on the Polygon Discord server. Today, we are speaking with a really innovative project by the name of Entangle Protocol, and we have two members of their core team here today with us. I'll let them introduce themselves. Why don't you guys go ahead and let us know who you are, what's your backstory, what were you doing before crypto, what got you into the space, and how did you end up working on the Entangle protocol?
Yeah, thank you. So it's Faisal here. I have Slava, the co-founder, with me, and on the AMA also joining us is our lead program technical manager, Andrew, also known as Murphy on his Discord handle. So yeah, I think I'll just start with a brief introduction of us all. And myself, I come from a predominantly investment banking background. I led fintech programs at the likes of Credit Suisse, JP Morgan, Barclays. And there were global fintech programs, but I've been in crypto for over, I think, the best part of 4.5, close to 5 years. And I got in at the peak of the bull run because I was always delivering fintech technology products. So crypto was just a natural curiosity that I sort of found myself exploring. Got caught up in the bull cycle hype, invested some money, lost some money, but then went on a real deep educational journey. And whilst I was at Credit Suisse, I actually represented them with the FCA, which is the UK regulator in the regulation of digital assets, roundtables and contributions to the white paper that was being written at the time. So from 2018 to 2020, I then sort of I embarked on a course at Oxford University, which was a blockchain strategy course, which really taught me, base level of the technology, what it can do, what it can't do. And then I managed my own crypto fund for family and friends between 2018 and 2021, which was excellent because it really gave me an insight into crypto assets on the ground. It wasn't just a investment fund; it was also a participation fund. So I was actually staking, yield farming, in particular, researching, partaking in airdrops. So I got to know the marketing side of crypto, the community side, but also the obstacles and hurdles. On the call with me, I have my co-founder Slava, who would like to say hello.
Hi everyone, Slava here. Pleasure to see so many people. Just a short intro about me. I'm from Denmark. I come mainly from a computer science perspective, but also I'm a professional musician on the side. I finished my bachelor's degree in computer science back in Chemnitz in 2014, and since then I embarked on my journey as a professional pianist. But crypto related, I was very interested since I think 2015, mainly in researching, and I've researched pretty much every white paper out there, and I was very inspired by the Chainlink white paper, especially the V1 white paper, how they approached blockchain tech from a very philosophical point of view. And since then, since the last 3 years, I've been yield farming as well, and for some people here in Dubai. And this is kind of where a lot of me and Faisal synergies met because of all the obstacles that there have been.
Yeah, and on the call is Andrew, who's been with us for over a year. He's program manager. He's got a background in computer engineering. I'll let Andrew speak a couple of lines on his background in crypto. He's got an extensive background as well, and he's leading our technical program from a management perspective.
All right. Well, Murphy, if you're there, you can go ahead. And I got to say, it's awesome having the opportunity to meet all of you.
Yeah, hi everybody. Yeah, I'm Andrew. So I have 7 years in IT. I have started like a software engineer. Then I moved to the program manager. So now I'm lead of technical program manager in Entangle Protocol. I have joined it to Faisal and Slava and to the project of Entangle Protocol from scratch. So I'm happy to be part of Entangle Protocol and I think we do really great things in crypto and Web3. So I have also computer engineering bachelor degree. So I think that's all from my side.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you very much.
Awesome. Well, it's great having the opportunity to meet all of you, and I'm really thankful that you're all here today for this AMA, so we can find out more about Entangle Protocol. So let's just jump right into it. Like, what is Entangle Protocol?
Great question. So I think we need to sort of start with the background a little bit, and then I'll sort of jump into what it is. So I think what we're trying to solve really is clearly in crypto. It's a large ecosystem, but in terms of from my own experiences in TradFi, it's a very small ecosystem. It's not even 1/10 of some of the stock exchanges out there. So there's limited liquidity, and liquidity is also fragmented. It's also siloed. It's stuck within certain ecosystems, and then therefore applications on those ecosystems are normally limited to the users of that protocol. And what that sort of does is it limits them in terms of what they can offer. And as a business, especially within DeFi, liquidity is your life source. So if that's fragmented, siloed, fractured, and it's not able to communicate with different protocols, there's a lack of interoperability within that liquidity. It sort of limits what a protocol can do. And so that was one of the core problems that we identified in our own experiences, myself and Slava. And what also, from a user perspective, if you want to do cross-chain DeFi between Polygon, for example, and AVAX, just as an example, bridging is risky and it's complicated, and there's not a lot of not only omni-chain sort of unification infrastructure, but also intra-chain uniting DeFi dApps within a chain to offer users enhanced yield and yield optimization and essentially liquidity optimization. One of the other core problems that we foresaw during our own experiences, and in TradFi, you often get seamless experiences when you're buying and selling stocks, shares, ETFs, etc. One of the other core problems that we identified was the fact that there's a poor liquidity retention. So there's a lack of sticky liquidity, especially for DEXs who need liquidity, because you often get yield farmers coming in providing short-term liquidity, and then often leaving for one reason or the other. And sometimes some of that capital is mercenary capital, so it's temporary. It's there to farm yield and then go to the next farm. So we also saw that as a problem, and one of the core reasons for that problem is the fact that there's a lack of utility for yield products, i.e. LPs. So once you provide liquidity as a liquidity provider, you get your LP token as a receipt of that liquidity for you to accumulate your yield, but there's not much else that you could do with that. So what Entangle is looking to do is not only make yield products accessible cross-chain, not only solve the liquidity issue, which is the siloed and fragmented liquidity, but we're also looking at giving users capital efficiency. So for example, with their LPs now, which I will talk about, our synthetic LP dApp, they can synthesize their LPs, and then now they have a yield-bearing asset which they can borrow against, and that's very powerful for protocols, for users. And Entangle itself is actually a facilitative infrastructure, and that's why we've had a very pleasant experience with Polygon so far, with all of the business development team and the partnership team. It's been fantastic. And I think there's a mutual recognition that we are there to help and facilitate liquidity, propagate sticky liquidity. And how we do that is that we are essentially our own layer one blockchain. We leverage the Cosmos SDK. We have IBC transferability, and we connect to the endpoints of any blockchain, so we can connect to EVM and non-EVM and their dApps. And we've built our own Oracle solution. Just a quick point on the Oracle is that we tried to look, before we started this, myself and Slava, we engaged in numerous research exercises And we saw that, maybe we could use, potentially some other infrastructure out there like Layer 0, etc., or maybe one or two of the other chains. But we found that, the current oracles that are being offered in the market, they make things very expensive, or they make transactions very expensive specifically, especially for dApps. And if we are to be truly cross-chain and unite, for example, Polygon to other ecosystems, and even the dApps within Polygon, create some sort of harmony between them, then we need to have an infrastructure that really is efficient on fees. And so for that reason, we built our own customized Oracle, customized blockchain, yield-centric blockchain. And just on top of that, so if you look at that as a layer, that is the uniting sub-layer, and that's why we refer to it as a sub-layer. We're building our own two dApps, so the two native dApps, and they're interconnected in a way. So the first dApp is synthetic vaults. So synthetic vaults essentially allow any LP or any yield-bearing asset to be replicated on-chain and to be exposed to users of other ecosystems. So if we take Polygon, for example, and some of the dexes like Velodrome or Stargate, they have some LPs, they're offering yield, but they're sort of limited to some of the ecosystem users of Polygon. So what we're aiming to do is to expose those LPs synthetically by building this dApp, which allows any user to gain exposure to these LPs. And what they receive is a synthetic LP, but it's not just a vapor synthetic LP. It's actually backed by the physical LP on Polygon. So it's always backed. And we do that through a pre-liquidity module. So we incentivize liquidity providers who also share the rewards, but we also then are able to expose these LPs or any yield-bearing asset synthetically cross-chain. And then there's obviously a bit more complication to it in how we manage all of the networks that we're connected to and how we manage the liquidity internally. We use certain algorithmic rebalancing logic within our smart contracts to ensure that we minimize bridging as much as possible. So that's synthetic vaults, which is our first dApp. And this is actually a very interesting dApp because essentially it opens up a lot of doors because it not only liquefies liquidity, makes it more fluid, it also makes yield now available cross-chain. So it's really allowing users to gain access to yield products. And not only that, it also allows any yield-bearing asset via synthetic representations, via synthetic vaults, to basically to be liquid staked and enabling secondary and tertiary utilities for your synthetic asset, which is always going to be backed. On the second dApp, our second dApp that we're building, it's Entangle USD. So this is a fully collateralized stablecoin. So if I give you the example of a LP on Polygon, now made available as Synth LP, as I've just referenced earlier, the Synth LP is always backed one-to-one with the LP on Polygon, on Stargate, for example. Now the user is earning because the synthetic LP is accruing value, and we do that through our Oracle solution. But they can deposit that as collateral and borrow Entangle USD against it, which is essentially allowing users to earn and borrow simultaneously, which again is very powerful because it goes back to the root problems that I mentioned when I first spoke, was that in order to maximize liquidity retention and at the same time provide capital efficiency to users, where they're not just mere holders of LPs anymore, they can essentially earn and borrow simultaneously. And we're also, just on that note, exploring further utility for these synthetic LPs. So if there's a derivative protocol based on Polygon, these synthetic LP holders now can stake their synthetic LPs to these derivative protocols who need liquidity in order for derivative trading to happen for extra yield. So you're kind of compounding yield too. So we just feel that a combination of these factors and vectors and verticals allow free movement of liquidity increased liquidity retention, and as a natural byproduct, increased capital efficiency.
That is incredible. You guys have come up with a very elaborative solution or a set of solutions for solving for a really real problem in the DeFi space. There's so many different cans of conversation I want to go down now between like the Cosmos layer 1 chain, the vaults, the Oracle. I have so many questions. And I really want to do a deep dive into all the technical stuff. I feel like a lot of the people in the audience probably do too, but I'd love it like if you could share a bit like about what the journey has looked like for Entangle. Like, how did you guys get to where you are today? How long have you been on Polygon for? What has that journey been like? I'm curious about more about the history of Entangle.
Yeah, the Polygon journey itself. So we decided to sort of integrate Polygon pretty much immediately because I think Polygon is really expanded its ecosystem. It's done a wonderful job, not only from a technical perspective, but also from an ease of integration perspective. So it was always number one, or at least a priority on our integration hit list. And I think that the journey has been very pleasant in terms of the partnership aspect and the communication with the business development team, and it allowed us to really focus and get things over the line. Our testnet is going to go out tonight. Actually, we're just typing up a guide so at least people know how to use what we're building. And in terms of the actual integration journey, it's actually been very pleasant because there's a lot of developer documentation available, and it's been very very seamless, I'd say, from an integration perspective. So I hope that answers your question. And just generally in terms of our journey so far, we at the very early stages we pivoted a few times, and I think from my own experiences of delivering fintech global projects, often when you're in large organizations, a small change becomes very costly and it becomes very time consuming because you have to go through various layers of governance in order to execute that change. So at Entangle, we're very nimble, and that's why I love crypto, and that's why I completely immersed myself within the crypto delivery space. And of course, being the lead of the project, we're able to pivot very quickly. So at the beginning, we did want to cure this problem because myself and Slava we're big fans of yield farming and DeFi itself. And I'm a DeFi. Even in my background, I did a master's in securitization of assets, etc. So it's always been my thing. So I just thought, how can we do this where we're able to achieve these objectives? So we sat down, and a lot of our team isn't here today because it's very late for them, but we have a great team of engineers and mathematicians and very, very creative. We have musical arts within our team. Slava's a professional pianist. So I think creativity is not limited at Entangle, let's just say that. And we just sat down for a number of sprints, and then we decided that, look, we need these 3 or 4 verticals to slot together. And then we sort of embarked on a journey utilizing the Cosmos infrastructure, the SDK in particular. We built up some bespoke modules around that, and so far it's been fascinating. And our testnet is really very, very quick and seamless, and we're hoping that it's a pleasant experience for everybody who decides to use it or who's been whitelisted to use it.
Fantastic. Yeah, that definitely answered my question. And by the way, guys, if you have any questions, make sure to drop them in the voice chat channel. There's a text channel for this voice channel, and I'll make sure they all get asked. Also, you guys are more than welcome to showcase and screen share anything you'd like to at any point. Just feel free, let me know. And another question, or I guess I'll just tie these 2 questions together. It would be like, well, I guess you kind of answered how can people start using Entangle because the testnet is live. So I guess, who is your target audience? Like, who are you building Entangle for? Is it for retail users, for institutions, for both? Like, who are you building this for?
It's a very good question, actually. So I think from a user perspective, we're trying to capture a very large audience. So and that's why we're trying to make LP accessible, one click from any chain to any chain. So that's the sort of base thesis that we're operating with. And so that obviously encapsulates DeFi newbies or noobs, as you would say in crypto, but also the more experienced DeFi operators, because of the focus on the utility of yield assets and the enhanced yield options that we're creating, and of course the borrowing option with Entangle USD. It really brings in aspects such as leverage yield farming. So there's that aspect. So from a DeFi user perspective, we're really targeting and trying to unite DeFi for everybody. And just to add further credence to that, is that we are also trying to like launch a very it's in-house, a small educational series. It's called Defined. You'll find it on our Medium. It's very basic articles for users and community members to know how a DEX works, why they need liquidity, how they get yield from a DEX, etc., etc. So we're trying to also add that educational layer, on top of what we're doing. So that's from a user perspective. But we also have a B2B aspect, because when we built out the solution for what we're building, we added a couple of mechanisms in order for there to be engagement. Because in order for this to work, we need engagement from the protocols, from the layer ones, from what's being built on top, the DEXs and the yield protocols. And we also need, of course, buy-ins from the foundations, such as Polygon. So when we built out the Oracle solution and the base layer blockchain, it was really done for to service and furnish the Entangle dApps, but it's kind of propelled into an Oracle solution that other dApps can now use to scale cross-chain, to have access to a more cost-efficient Oracle. And I'm sure Slava can talk about that for hours, and there's probably time is limited on that. So it's also for protocols, so we can integrate protocols not only from a liquidity routing perspective, but also they can share our infrastructure. And then Entangle USD also, we imbued governance rights within the stablecoin. So it's a cross-chain stablecoin. It can move around, but it has to be repaid on the chain of origin. So each chain that we connect to will come with its own liquidation engine, so it can manage risk locally and not allow a central point of failure. And by imbuing governance rights within the stablecoin, we are bringing in DEXs to host our stablecoin. So recently we partnered with a few prominent DEXs like Trader Joe, Spooky Swap, Spirit Swap, because they see the benefit of not only routing liquidity retention vis-a-vis Entangle USD. So as Entangle USD is hosted within pools, the hoster or the hosting party will start to accrue governance rights, which can then be used in the DAO to prompt more Synth LPs to be routed to them as a liquidity routing mechanism from a governance perspective. So it really ties into a few parties here, from both from a B2C perspective, the consumers, and also from a B2B perspective.
Fantastic. I want to get to some of the questions in the chat. We have quite a few people asking about the testnet. Would it be possible to, do you guys have an article or some announcement that we could share in the chat for everyone to get all the details?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Sure. The testnet will be out in the next few hours. Just before this, whilst I was trying to get my VPN sorted, I was actually just finishing off the guide for the community. So I think maybe we could probably take a short pause here with me hogging the microphone, and maybe Andrew can demonstrate a few videos that we did of the testnet. So maybe we can just have a demonstration, and I can sort of probably talk through it at the same time.
Sweet. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, let's demonstrate it. So let me share my screen firstly. Is it works now?
It's loading in and everything looks great. Very sleek user interface. Okay. I like this a lot. And yeah, I just want to
Okay.
encourage everyone to tune in on the screen share.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay,
So, sorry, Andrew, did you want to say something?
I can show the demonstration of how to buy some Centric LPs of Polygon in Avalanche network, something else.
Yeah. So this is a user on an AVAX wallet, for example, and now they're going to position funds into a Polygon-based LP at the bottom. So I think Andrew can showcase that. And also the interface has been built for simplicity, so you can add networks, RPCs with a click of a button. Your tokens are then displayed within your MetaMask as synthetic LPs, and then as they accrue yield, you'll see their value build up. Those are the connected networks that we've got. There's a verification page at the beginning too, where new whitelisted users will have to verify, etc. I think maybe you can showcase the videos, Andrew, and just go through the videos, and then I can just talk through them.
Okay. With page of verification, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you open to have sound with this video? Because you might have to share the specific application. I think you're sharing your full screen. Just saying.
Oh, there's no sound to it. It's just a video demonstration.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah, so this is the verification page where users have to verify, and then they can join the actual testnet once it's a success. And then I think, Andrew, if you could just show maybe a sell synth LP video after this one.
Okay. Let's show sell.
This is a profile page, so you'll be able to see how many synth LPs you hold, what yield you're earning, etc. You can also then sell your synth LP back into stable coins. So just to explain as well, so the testnet V1 is consisting of stablecoin based yield farms, multi-chain, and the reason why we did that is because the rebalancing is we want to really test the rebalancing mechanisms of how we rebalance the internal pools in all the internal DEX networks that we've built. So on V2 of the testnet, we'll have, V2 of the testnet actually, we'll have mixed LPs. So you'll be able to LP into Ethereum and Polygon, for example, or Polygon USDC. And then it'll also have Entangle USD. And then V3 of the testnet will actually have a demonstration of our Oracle solution and blockchain. And then we will then roll those three things, or those three verticals, onto our decentralized mainnet. So I'm hoping the community's got enough from these videos that they're confident that the testnet is ready and for them to enjoy and for them to use. It was supposed to be out yesterday, but we were late into the night testing. There were some small bugs, etc. As you know, these things happen in tech. And more importantly, we just wanted to make sure that we're able to get a guide out for you, so you're able to understand and also educate yourselves on what you're doing and what you're using essentially within the testnet. Thank you, Andrew, for that.
That was awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, I'd love to ask some more like technical questions just about how everything works. I guess so there's Entangle USD. Wondering if you could just like explain more how that works and how you can acquire Entangle USD. Like, how is it minted? Is it over collateralized? What type of stable coin is it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. I'll let Slava speak on this one.
Okay, so Entangle USD can be borrowed through two means. So either by synthetic LPs or also selected LPs. And the question you're probably also having is, how do we approve assets which can be used as collateral to borrow Entangle USD. That is also where the Entangle DAO comes in, where the Entangle tokens and Entangle USD tokens, which hold governance powers, they also direct liquidity, as Faisal said before, but they also governance users can also vote in which assets are approved to borrow Entangle USD. Now, you might be wondering, like, what precise mechanism we're using for Entangle USD. I would say we are a variant of DAI. I'm sure everyone has heard about DAI here. It's something called target price mechanism, where when there's a surplus on the market of DAI, meaning that there's a peg deviation downwards, then we make it more expensive to borrow DAI. And when there's a negative surplus of DAI on the market, or Entangle USD in this case on the market, then we'll make it cheaper to borrow in order to always promote that there's a peg stabilization with incentives.
Yeah, so just to double up on that, it's essentially a DAI, which rather than depositing single assets as collateral, you're now able to deposit your synthetic LPs, which are backed by the real LP. So, and that is what is essentially is the collateral medium for the borrowing of Entangle USD. I hope that sort of answers your question a bit more.
Yeah, it does, and I feel like I do need to do a little bit of my own digging to like fully wrap my head around things. But I don't know. I definitely will. Another thing, like, I don't know. I have so many questions, like, you know, relating to. I know you also have a token, and you know, I'm curious about more about how the Oracle works and what role it plays in the protocol.
Yeah, sure. So before Slava talks about the Oracle and how it works, in terms of the token, and of course, in terms of your own deeper dive and stuff, anytime we can have a call afterwards. We've got a great communication line going anyway, so we can always jump on a call and go through some things, and we can send you some documentation too. So really look forward to that. In terms of the token, Entangle has a variety of utilities. So it's really very revenue focused. So I think another problem that I've foreseen, and so has Slava and the team, is that previously many projects they sort of issue a token, and there's no real construct of revenue behind the plan of the project or the business itself. So we did a very sort of extensive deep dive on revenue. So we looked at how we could ensure that the Entangle token actually performs a function, whilst also any emissions are always revenue backed. So in terms of the utility itself, it's the primary utility is that you can stake as a delegator or a validator on the blockchain, Entangle chain. It's used for our Oracle solution. So you can, in becoming a keeper, you got to deposit to become a keeper of the Oracle. It's used to pay gas fees on the chain. It's used for voting in the Entangle DAO. And as I just said, any emissions, any rewards that are distributed are always backed by real revenue and not just emitted out of thin air. And I think we've seen a lot of problems across the space with inflated yields, etc., and that hasn't really helped in the long term. Short term there were gains, but long term there was pain, I'd say. So we've really had a deep dive in terms of revenue and Entangle token and utility.
Yeah, awesome. It sounds like there is a ton of utility for the Entangle token. Miguel has a interesting question here in the chat. They're saying, since you used the example of DAI, apparently back in the day, people would get DAI for holding Gnosis back in the old days. And he's wondering, will it work like that? And I guess, like, just to add to his question, is there any way to earn the Entangle USD?
We are looking for some possibilities of doing that later on. Just to give you a specific example, let's say you're a Polygon user, and let's say you have a synthetic LP based off 1-to-1 to an LP, you now stake that LP, synthetic LP, to a derivatives protocol. And right there, we could make it as such that you can earn rewards in Entangle USD rather than Entangle token, which is something we're considering, but we haven't yet finalized that.
That makes sense. One thing we haven't really covered much at all that I think is like extremely important, especially since you sit at like the intersect of so many different types of DeFi protocols, like whether it be stable coins or bridges, you're kind of like in an overlap area. So I really want to talk about like the security of the protocol and like what steps you guys are taking to make sure users' funds are safe on Entangle protocol.
Yeah, so we're constantly testing for bugs, and we've been building for a while because we understand that we're going to be the hub, the router hub for liquidity and availability of yield products. It's paramount that we look at security. So we are going to be running bug bounty programs, and I think launching 3 versions of the testnet is an arduous and very sort of burdensome task, I'd say, because it doubles our workload. We have to be forked entire chains and dexes just to ensure that we get proper functionality for the testnet. And the primary reason for the testnet was so that we actually really test the security aspects, the liquidity rebalancing aspects, and ensure that any new innovation that we are essentially trying to achieve goes through a rigorous testing process. So it's not just innovation based on the back of users' real funds, and where there's a degree of carelessness involved. And then, of course, before mainnet, obviously after extensive testing of our testnets, we will be conducting dual audits and then running continuous bounty programs, etc. So we will be very thorough, and I think, given our backgrounds and mine in particular, I think security is of paramount importance to us, and that's something that's at the forefront of our mind. And the infrastructure that we've built, we do need participation. So we've already secured a number of validators and keepers and infrastructure providers who are, professionals in that particular area of crypto in terms of infrastructure. So we're really looking at ensuring that we get widespread participation, security of the network, whilst doing all the internal control testing within the testnet, and then furnishing that with a audit prior to launching mainnet.
Fantastic. Another thing I think would be really important to touch on would be just all the key partnerships and all the collaborations you guys have going on. Like, I don't want you to like share too much, Alpha, but I mean, whatever you can share with us.
Yeah, so I think one of the core partnerships, of course, we're here today with one of our core partners, Polygon, which is, and I've mentioned on the call, it's been a fantastic journey so far, thus far. One of our other core partnerships or grants that we received was from Aave, which is going to be reviewed again post testnet, because if we get enough volume on testnet, then Aave, we'll look at giving us a second grant. And the grant with Aave was based on the sticky liquidity factor, and the fact that Aave vaults, they're pretty vanilla in crypto. I mean, if you got 2, 3, 4% in the real world of finance, many people will be very happy with that. Although, of course, we know it doesn't beat inflation. So in crypto, that's very boring yield and not fun. So I think the fact that they can continue to do very secure lending and borrowing vaults and able to attract liquidity, and they're aiming obviously for institutional flow, but even high net worth yield flow, liquidity flow, if the chances or the probabilities of that being more sticky can be increased, that was very attractive for Aave. So that was a key partnership. And then we've got partnerships with other layer ones, Phantom, AVAX, Arbitra, Multiverse X, formerly known as Elrond, is our first non-EVM, real core non-EVM partner, which we've actually been discussing the integrations with them today. and they're a very technical team, and they actually like what we're doing, and they liked the Oracle solution very much so, where they want to introduce their dApps to potentially partner with us and take advantage of integration into our infrastructure.
Sweet, that's really
I'm
exciting.
not giving too much alpha away.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to spill as much alpha as you'd like. I just don't want you to get in trouble. Like, I understand you got to do a little bit of alpha policing, but
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
But yeah, I appreciate you sharing all the alpha that you can, and so does everyone here. So another question I have is, like, what are your competitive advantages, and like what makes you stand out from other protocols? And it feels kind of weird asking this question, because when I think of, like, your competitors, like who you compare to, the closest thing I can think of to a comparison is like Layer 0, and you guys are completely different. Like, I feel like you both identified a similar problem, but you both went like completely different routes in regards to solving it. So I don't know, I'm curious like what your thoughts are on the competitive landscape for Entangle protocol.
Yeah, I mean, so as a collective with our own Layer 1 and our own native dApps, we've really struggled to find a competitor that offers this as a collective. There are competitors, as you've just mentioned, Layer 0, which have built a base and then invited others to build on top, which we eventually, the vision is for that to happen, for us to. But we thought we need to kickstart this with a facilitative infrastructure and dApps which connect to other chains and help other chains. So in terms of a one-to-one competitor, we didn't really find anything. But in terms of Layer 0, I mentioned earlier on the call that when we looked into Layer 0 and potentially building our synthetic vaults dApp on Layer 0, we realized that they actually utilize Chainlink. And as much as we love Chainlink, Chainlink was the early proponent of Oracle infrastructure. Their research paper is why actually Slava is actually here, because he read that back to front. But it's very expensive for dApps, and many dApps will testify. And for that reason, many dApps are actually running on centralized scripts or centralized server oracles, which presents a risk of its own. So when we did a cost-benefit analysis, we realized that using Chainlink could possibly cost us close to 100K a month if we're running at scale and liquidity is building up, etc. So for that reason, we decided to build our own oracle, and yeah, so it's really designed to fit the needs of what Entangle is designed to achieve. Did you want to say something, Slava? Okay,
yes, for those people who are maybe a little bit more technical, what like the real difference between, for example, Chainlink and Entangle oracles is the fact that Chainlink, they run spotter smart contracts on each of their chains, which they aggregate information between. And there's like some disadvantages with that, because obviously on-chain computation, for example, on Ethereum, is just really expensive because you have to pay gas every time, and you're always limited by the amount of keepers. What we do in Entangle instead is we are running the spotter smart contracts on the Entangle blockchain, which is very, very cheap, as is a complete specialized blockchain only for the purpose of validating oracles. We're not running any other service there. We're not trying to compete with Ethereum.
Or Polygon.
Or Polygon. It's really just built to validate oracles, nothing else. And if you like compare also, aside from the technological aspect, the price aspect, what Chainlink does, for example, is that they're taking the minimum 0.1 link fee for each oracle transaction, no matter like what the real price is. For example, relaying information to Polygon is very cheap because the gas fee is very cheap, or it's very expensive in Ethereum. But Chainlink still does take a 0.1 link fee. What we do in Entangle instead is, yeah, we take a fee, of course, with a profitable company, but we just apply a small premium, 10 to 15% premium, rather than taking a flat out 0.1 link fee, which is what, 80 cents today.
Yeah, so I think that's probably gone into your a bit more of your Oracle curiosity too. But of course, we can discuss that offline in more detail. But I hope that's answered some of your questions around what our competitive advantages are.
Yeah, most definitely has. And we are starting to run a little bit up on time. We got like another 12 minutes. So I just want to make sure that we can get to everything that you wanted to cover and, answer all the questions of everything here. Just quick question. And you already touched on this quite a bit. Like, how does Entangle generate revenue? I just feel like this is always a really important question for dApps.
Yeah, so I think with the revenue with Entangle, it sort of generates revenue across a few different vectors. So we have the synthetic vaults dApp, where when users exchange in and out of synthetic LPs or synthetic vaults, which are representing yield-bearing assets, there's a small trading fee that's applied on the internal dexes. Secondly, there's the Entangle USD, which has interest and liquidation fees. The third is the Entangle blockchain and Oracle solution, which Slava just went through in terms of a small premium on gas fees. And then all these fees go towards a revenue distribution scheme towards stakeholders of Entangle, which are liquidity providers, Oracle keepers, stakers, and some goes to a DAO treasury, which is a lockup of 12 months of Entangle tokens for further, where Entangle tokens are bought, off the market and then locked up for further development and marketing. So the protocol essentially becomes self-sufficient.
Awesome. And then, I guess my second last question, before I ask, all the ways that people can get involved, would be, like what's next on the roadmap for Entangle, and like what can we, how do you envision Entangle's position in the future of Web3?
So yeah, I think we imagine at some point a marriage between TradFi and crypto in order to expand the liquidity that's within the ecosystem. I think it's inevitable. When you look at real estate and so many assets, in the real world, there's that can be tokenized and micro investors can get access to. We see real world stocks and bonds and shares being made available on the blockchain. So the larger vision for us is to first really establish being the facilitator of ecosystems, the liquefying or fluidifying liquidity cross-chain, and then exposing yield products of one ecosystem to a number of ecosystems. Of course, we've discussed how we're looking at optimizing yield. And then, of course, in the future, we want to move towards where a user can have a synthetic LP, they can collateralize it, they can borrow against it, they can provide it for further yield, or they can simply collateralize it to borrow and then purchase more assets, possibly even in the real world TradFi type of assets that we can synthesize. So that's one. And then I think with the synthetic vaults dApp, I think if you look at it as a machinery where we can synthesize any yield-bearing asset, even existing ones, we're looking to be the protocol where it's more beneficial for users to go via Entangle because there's more options at that shop, rather than going individually to where they want to go to. So I hope that's given the immediate, the mid, and the sort of forward-looking vision for Entangle.
Oh, most definitely. Faisal, you have done a phenomenal job explaining everything, very thorough. It's phenomenal. We have so many people in the chat actually asking how they can get involved. So we got a question regarding the testnet. They're wondering, can anyone access the testnet, or do you need to be whitelisted? How can people get involved?
So the testnet is, of course, scalability is something that we want to approach slowly but surely. So the users that have been whitelisted, those are the users that will have access to the testnet. But do remember, we are working very hard for a second version of the testnet, so that will be opened up, whitelists again, and then a third version. And in terms of how to get involved, I think, we're not a massive team. We're actually, what we've achieved with a relatively small team is I would like to think it's been very positive. So if we will be sort of looking for people to help us in terms of copywriting, getting involved with the community, even the community fun things like memes and and those type of activities. We're very much looking forward to people getting involved from that regard, and of course, as with most protocols, early contributors, followers, loyal supporters, we're looking to reward them. We've already announced an airdrop, and that will continue. Being incentivized throughout the versions of the testnet, and we're looking for it not just to be an airdrop and then you run off sort of thing. We want to continue building incentivization mechanisms throughout the mainnet and beyond. So I hope I've given some ray of light for those who are very keen on getting involved, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for everybody to get involved with Entangle.
Faisal, thank you so much for sharing alpha with the Polygon community today. You rock. You guys rock. Really appreciate.
Likewise. Thank you very much for being an incredible host as well.
Yeah.
It's been great here.
I still got one more question. Somebody was asking about an ambassador program. They want to know how they can get involved with it. Do you have an ambassador program, or do you have plans to start one?
To be honest, we don't have an ambassador program now, but we would be interested in having one to some point. But if they would like to, please join our Discord and come up with a proposal, and we will of course review it.
Just open up a ticket, and we're more than happy with these ideas. Honestly, we anything that can help us will always be reviewed internally. And we're looking forward to seeing these proposals. And as Slava said, we'd love to move forward with an ambassador program.
All right. Well, you guys all heard Faisal. Lots and lots of ways to get involved with Entangle. You're definitely early because they're in testnet right now. So all the links are in the chat. If you want to go click on the link tree, you can follow them on Twitter, jump in the Telegram, jump in the Discord, and get involved today. And also, I want to mention that I shared a form in the chat for POAP. POAP is Proof of Attendance Protocol. It's like a cute little NFT to commemorate your attendance here today. So if you're interested in one of those, just drop your wallet address in the form, and I'll make sure you get a POAP. And with that said, yeah, I think this has been a great AMA. Is there anything else you want to cover, Faisal?
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic, and as I said, the business development communication side of Polygon has been nothing short of fantastic, and we really look forward to collaborating with yield protocols, perpetual protocols, dexes. There's a few dexes we want to get in touch with, of course, because they're on the testnet already. We've done work with them, so we'll be routing those requests through the team at Polygon. I'd like to say a big thank you to the community for attending today and asking, very, very cool questions. And of course, your questions were fantastic too. So yeah, I mean, I really look forward to just continuing this journey together with the team and with the community. And anybody who wants to get involved and has an idea, please share it on the Discord, and we'd love to hear from you.
It was a pleasure as well from my side. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I actually had a lot of fun doing this AMA. It was a pleasure to meet all of you. And thank you so much to the Polygon community for coming out today and sharing this with me. So, yeah, thanks so much, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And with that said, yeah, this concludes the AMA. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Goodbye.